Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Grimsby Green Advisory Committee meeting of March 31st. I would just like to remind everybody that's attending this evening, if you don't mind muting your microphone unless you're speaking, that will just help with any of the background chatter or dogs barking, etc. Although we love dogs barking, just not for the meeting. That would be great. Thank you. So I'm going to call this meeting to order. Any disclosures of interest, pecuniary interest? If you just want to raise your hand or nope, seeing none. I'm going to move on to approval of the agenda. Can I have a mover and seconder? You can just raise your hand or so I see Chantel and Bruce. Thank you. All in favor? Just wave your hand wildly. Good, thank you. That's carried. Just paperwork to do here. Next item on the agenda is the selection of chair and vice chair roles and membership update. And I'm going to pass it over to Director Sweeney to start that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bothwell. Just wanted to give everybody a quick update. Councillor Randy Vane has resigned from this committee, so he's not going to be continuing on at this time. The way that the terms of reference were written was that it would be 223 councillors on this committee. And I think at this point we'll proceed with just sticking with the two, Councillor Bothwell and Councillor Sharp as our representatives, and not fill that space. Also, Sharon Porter has resigned from the committee, so we are looking to fill those two vacancies right now. It has been posted. It was in the newspaper last week. It's been on our social media and it is on our website. We'll do another post and boost of it as well, but do share it with your networks as well. So keep an eye out for it. And we have had, I think, 4 or 5 applications so far. So we are getting some interest in it. So hopefully for the next meeting, we'll have those 2 new committee members joining our team. And then I'm going to turn it over to Donna, and she's going to facilitate the discussions for chair and vice chair.
Sorry, before we move to that, I've just got a motion that I think I need to pass first. There's actually a bunch of them here, Donna. They're all the same. Every one of those motions is the same here. I have 5 of them on the same thing. Is that correct? Should I only have 1 of those? They're all the same, I think. I did that one. Sorry about that. I was just going over the motion for the, what I need is a mover and a seconder to resolve that the resignation from committee members, Councillor Randy Vane and Sharon Porter, be received, and that staff be directed to proceed with the selection process of new committee members. And as Director Sweeney noted, that it's 2 committee members we're seeking. One is for Selby's position that's been vacated, and the other is for Sharon Porter's position that's been vacated. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that resolution, please? Councillor Sharp and Carl, thank you. All in favor? It's carried, thank you. So I'll let the Deputy Clerk now move on the next part of that item, which is the selection of chair and vice chair. Donna, I'll leave that.
Thank you. Through the acting chair, item number 4 on our agenda is the selection of chair and vice chair for the committee. And since we're not all present this evening, if everyone is comfortable moving forward with the selection of chair and vice chair, we can proceed if that's the desire of the committee. or it could be, this matter could be deferred to a future meeting when there are more members present and potentially some new members as well.
So maybe what we'll do is a straw vote. If people just want to put up their hand, and then we can see how many are interested in proceeding with the chair tonight, nominating for the chair. If people want to put their hand up for that, I see 2, 3.
So just to
Sorry?
clarify, you're not nominating, the vote is for, are we going to select the chair tonight, not do you want to be
Exactly.
the chair?
Exactly. It's whether we're going to move forward with nominations or selections of the chair
Yeah,
this
we could
evening.
wait until everyone's here, or we could do it tonight.
And that's what the question is, a straw vote as to how many would like to move forward tonight with the nominations. 1, 2, 3. I don't have quorum on that.
4, there's 4. We got 4 over there, Carl.
Did Carl? Sarah, do we have, is that quorum based on the number in attendance? 1, 2.
6.
That's quorum? 4.
4 yes and 3 did not. Sorry? 4 said yes and 3 did not say yes. I would say it's 4 and 3. So yeah. 4, but we're 4 of.
So we have 4 of 7 members present, which is a majority, which means we can move forward with nominations for the chair tonight. And this is where somebody has to actually put their name forward now to want to be chair. So this was the highly anticipated moment we had last meeting. And I would now encourage anyone who wants to just jump into the waters and try it. It's, 1 year, not even a year before the next time around. Because we're doing this annually, right, Sarah? Yep, we're doing this annually. So great way to learn how to do it and have fun. And I don't see any hands yet. Bruce, did you want to speak to that?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Carl Gonson as chair.
Anyone else want to put their name forward? We have a nomination. Carl, are you interested in putting your name forward?
Yes, I would be interested with one caveat, or you need to understand my my health. I can't go on these cleanup walks through creeks and whatnot and pick up litter as much as I think it's important to do that kind of stuff. Physically, at certain times of the year, I can't do it. My brain is really good, and I have some lofty goals, if you recall, to do with trees and that kind of stuff. So yes, I would be glad to stand for nomination, and just understand that sometimes I can't make it on a Saturday morning to do a cleanup.
Carl, there was nothing in the terms of reference that said a chair has to go sloshing through the mud in 40 Mile Creek and pick out weeds or garbage. So it isn't a requirement to be a good chair. So we're all good with that. The only thing that you might need to do is work with Director Sweeney on your physical body being here in the chambers, working with these lovely ladies as chair. So they will help you with that and see how that can be accommodated. So, so we have one potential nominee for chair. I'm just going to give anyone else an opportunity to put their name forward before we do before Donna decides to do the acclamation statement. Seeing no further nominations, we have one. Donna, do you want to take it out and tell me whether we're acclaimed here?
The position of chair for the Green Advisory Committee would be acclaimed by Carl, and I'm sorry, I don't know your last name.
It's Gonson, Gonnsен.
So I just need a mover and a seconder to, the motion would be that the chair as acclaimed is Carl Gonson for the this term, Is that good, Sarah? Commencing, what's the next meeting date? Commencing with the
I just had a-
next
I just
meeting.
had a question, Councillor Bothwell. This term, is this the term of council or is this the term of 2021?
This is it's a 1-year term. So basically it runs usually from January to December. So although this will be a shorter term for the chair.
In the resolution, could you use the word for the term of 2021?
I can certainly put.
Just so that it wouldn't be confused with the term of council.
Yep.
Or just calendar year would be fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or that.
Okay. For the calendar year commencing, but I was with the next meeting.
April 28th.
Commencing April 28th. For the calendar year commencing April 28th. Does that sound about right? So the motion will be that resolve that Carl Gonson be acclaimed as chair for the calendar year.
Just put commencing at the first meeting in April, in case we change the date.
Because the terms of reference already state that the chair is appointed annually or elected annually. So I can just say that is acclaimed as chair commencing with the April 28th.
I would put just the first meeting in April, because in case the date changes.
Okay. So Councillor Sharp, how does this sound? Resolve that Carl Gonson be acclaimed as chair commencing with the first Grimsby Green meeting in April.
Yep.
Sounds good. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that? I have Chantel, and seconder, Bruce. All in favor? More hands. More hands? Okay, carried.
Welcome, Carl.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to let Donna move to the next part of this motion.
So through the chair at this time, is there anyone present who would like to put their name forward to be vice chair of the Green Advisory Committee? If so, please raise your hand.
Carl, you can't do both jobs.
No, I wasn't doing that, but we do need a vice chair.
It's Bruce. I have a question to the chair, if I may.
Sure.
Unless Chantel, Suzanne, or Haley steps forward with an intention of running for vice chair, and I certainly would welcome that. If they don't, could vice chair be deferred until the April meeting, when hopefully we will have 2 new members, one of which may be voluntold or show their intention for running as vice chair. But I don't want to. I'm just putting the question out there in case one of my 3 fellow members don't wish to run for vice chair. But I welcome their names being put forward. Thank you.
So that leaves an option to, we can still consider if anyone wants to put their hand forward to be nominated as vice chair, or a deferral motion can be put forward for the vice chair position. Director Sweeney?
Sorry, I was going to say this in the next item, but I haven't yet. But just for clarification, Suzanne Mader is an employee. She's our procurement manager and business specialist, so she's not eligible for nomination, even though she might be interested.
Well, my apologies for not.
It's my fault.
That's okay. We should all maybe of the members of the committee should all be given green hats so that we recognize you. Sorry, Suzanne, but you have to It's now down to Chantel and Haley. The bidding is on.
So, ladies, would either of you want to put Councillor Sharp can also, I believe, run as a vice chair. I don't think it restricts a councillor from being a chair or vice chair either, but would anyone else like to put their name forward? Or if I don't see a nomination for vice chair, we can definitely put a motion on the floor to defer the position of vice chair to the next meeting or subsequent meeting. So Bruce, yes?
I'll move that motion that the selection of vice chair be moved until the April meeting.
Okay, can I have a seconder? And then that's a deferral motion. The mayor is seconding. Mayor Jordan, thank you. So I've got a motion resolved that we defer the selection of the vice chair to the April meeting. And that's, moved by Bruce moved and, Jeff, Mayor Jordan seconded. All in favor of that? And that's carried. So we're deferring the selection of the VP, VC to the April meeting. Next item on the agenda. Climate change and environmental sustainability framework presentation. Director Sweeney.
Thank you. I am going to pass the floor over to Suzanne. As I said earlier, Suzanne is our procurement manager and business strategist, and she also has a keenness for Grimsby Green and environmental sustainability, and she's going to walk us through some of the framework that she's working on. So Suzanne, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Excited to be here, excited to be talking to you tonight. Last week I got to observe and see what the Grimsby Green Advisory Committee priorities were, so I was really excited to join then. Environment and climate change action are near and dear to my heart, and I'm very happy to be supporting the town and working with the Grimsby Green Advisory Committee on environmental sustainability action and climate change action. So I have a little presentation. It's very short. I just sort of want to introduce some of the work that we're undertaking. So I'm just going to pull that up and hoping you all can see something. Okay. So I just go through a few slides with you, and then I also have the opportunity for questions, and I'm happy to answer any questions as well. So the climate change framework. So what we're sort of undertaking here at the town is, number one, we want to ensure that we're acting on council's strategic priority on the environment. So, and that with the goal of protecting and preserving Grimsby's distinct natural heritage and become a municipal leader in sustainability. So this is a lofty goal and an action, and it's very exciting that it's on council's strategic priorities. And so one thing we want to do is take that priority and turn that into strategy. So looking at that priority, how can we create a strategy for climate change action at the town? And that's really what I'm talking about today, is sort of an overarching framework of climate change action and environmental sustainability. And more importantly, how are we going to report and track on climate change action? So how are we doing for climate change action? What actions are we doing? And how does it contribute to reducing our carbon emissions and improving our environmental sustainability in our operations and services? So a climate change framework for the town is multi-pillared. So when you're looking at a framework, there is the corporate piece and then there's a community piece. So for the corporate piece, we've sort of bucketed it under three different areas of strategic priorities or actions. that the town will undertake in different areas. So when you're looking at policy and strategic plans, you know, a municipality would have an energy and greenhouse gas emission reduction target. We are legislated to have an energy conservation and demand management plan. We also have asset management plan, which looks at our facilities, our infrastructure, such as stormwater, and is it resilient to climate change and climate adaptive, which then feeds into a climate change adaptation plan. And this is something that Sarah Sweeney has brought forward to the GGAC. I need to think of a good acronym for you guys, the JAC, for looking at climate change adaptation for the town, as well as our facilities and resiliency, along with emergency management planning. How are we going to incorporate climate change action, sustainability, and to our official plan? How do we ensure that as our community changes, grows, or improves, that we have environmental sustainability components? And as well, are we looking at sustainable development standards for new development, infill, greenfield development? So again, the framework needs overarching policy and strategic plans, and this is one pillar of the climate change framework. The next would be operations and services. So this is the boots on the ground work. So what are we doing in our operations and services to green them? So air quality, are we looking at electric vehicle transition? Are we reducing our consumption of energy in greenhouse gas emissions? So we're reducing our energy consumption in our facilities, in our public spaces. Are we incorporating, a good example would be the Carolinian resolution that came forward, or are we improving the biodiversity in our public spaces? Sustainable purchasing. So as the town looks at procuring goods and services, are we taking a look at that cradle to grave of that product? So is it recyclable content? Is it recyclable after? Can it be reused? It's that whole life cycle costing of our goods and services. Waste, are we looking at 3-stream waste diversion in our facilities, which would mean 3-stream is compost, recycling, and garbage? Are we reducing our single-use plastics, bottled water, different pieces in our operations and services? Council reports. Are we incorporating climate change awareness or the impact of climate change on the decisions that council is making when we're procuring goods and services, or we're looking at development, or we are, making any sort of, decision on operations and services? So this is an important piece that we want to ensure that we inform council on the decisions and the impacts of the work we do. Budget, are we including budget for climate action into our annual budgeting process? Do we have a long-term view of that? And are we environmentally compliant? As well, again, emergency management is very important in our operations and services. So programs, there are many programs that municipalities can get involved in to help frame how a municipality tackles climate change action. Some of these programs are through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. One is Partners for Climate Protection. So this is something that the town will be looking at joining and getting involved in. Other provincial organizations, networks, and that the town can join and partner with on different initiatives in regards to climate change. We are part of Niagara Adapt, so continuing that relationship if it does continue beyond this term, or creating our own network with all of the Niagara regional municipalities on climate action as well. And why we're here tonight is to liaise with the Grimsby Green Advisory Committee and use the expertise at this table to support and incorporate that work into the town's climate change framework. So that really brings us to community, and there is a significant piece for the community in climate change. The municipality only can do so much. We want to show leadership. We will do the work in our operations and services, but we need the community to get involved and on board with climate change action. So we need our community champions, we need that community grassroots action, and the community needs the support of the municipality and the leadership of the municipality. So that's where we really see Grimsby Green Advisory Committee supporting this framework, as well Niagara Adapts. There's a large education and awareness piece that needs to happen in the community on climate action. The NPCA has a significant, and Bruce, you were speaking about the NPCA last meeting, but there's significant opportunity for partnerships with these organizations. And again, other Grimsby community groups and organizations, such as I think Councillor Sharp was speaking about the Rotary Club and different litter pickups last meeting as well. So there is a significant contribution from the community, and we want to ensure that we're capturing the work that's happening in the community and supporting it. And of course, we want to make sure that we're reporting on climate change and environmental sustainability. So, you know, it's great to do the action, but we want to show the difference. We want to show the impact. So some pieces that the town has been doing, and you know what we're looking at for 2021 for climate change action, and the different buckets are, you know, we do have an asset management plan that will be completed this year, which will include how are we incorporating a climate change adaptation lens onto our infrastructure and our facilities. So are they resilient to the floods? Are they resilient to the increase in extreme weather events? So this is a significant piece that the town needs to incorporate into how we plan and budget moving forward. We will be doing 2021 energy audits on 3 of our facilities because we are completing an update for the Energy Conservation and Demand Management Plan. This is a legislative requirement under the Electricity Act. This will really look at reducing our consumption of energy in our facilities as well as our fleet. And we will be looking at other methods of generating energy as well. So it's not just conservation, but it can also be renewable energy. Sustainable development standards is something that we're looking at with planning, so that when applications come through, we have a climate change lens on our applications, our development applications. This is something along the lines of LEED. So some of you may be aware of LEED, Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. It's sort of taking a look at any application and saying, could there be a green energy or a renewable energy piece? Could they look at the landscaping? Are they stormwater ready? So this is a significant area where I also see the Grimsby Green Advisory Committee getting involved in helping to comment on the sustainable development standards. Advocacy and legislation is really important. There's always ongoing and changing legislation from the provincial government, and we need to be active and involved and ensure that we understand the impact or changes to different pieces of legislation. So not only does council need to, or does town staff need to be involved and make sure that we're commenting on different legislative requirements, but again, this is where the Grimsby Green Advisory Committee would also liaise and get involved in commenting on different legislation changes. Operations and services. We did purchase our first electric vehicle last year for the parks recreation fleet. So that was really exciting with Director Sweeney. And we're looking at that transition as well. How can we transition more vehicles to electric? Tree planting. So we do have a lot of tree planting work this year and ongoing. And with the resolution by council for the Carolinian piece, there will be an increase in looking at tree planting opportunities. And again, this is another piece where we see a great partnership with the Grimsby Green Advisory Committee to get involved. The town has been moving to online and paperless services. We want to capture those savings. We want to understand our impact. How much paper have we reduced? How many trees have we saved? So not only are we planting trees, but we're reducing our consumption of trees. We've done LED lighting retrofits, and LED lighting retrofits really have about a 50 to 60% reduction in energy consumption when you do that. So again, we'll be doing more of those, but we want to capture what is that carbon impact. We will be doing improvements to our library HVAC system, which will have an energy efficiency piece. Trail improvements, where it's very exciting that we're doing recycling in parks, recycling downtown in the Grimsby Beach. We do have emergency management around heat alert days and cold alert days, and this is also part of climate adaptation. We will be looking at grant funding opportunities for different climate change action opportunities that the town can take on. As well, the council has committed significant funds to shoreline protection as part of climate adaptation work to protect our homes and our waterfront. So again, some of the programs we'll be getting involved with, like I said, Partners for Climate Protection, Niagara Adapts, Grimsby Green, and there are many other provincial organizations that we'll be reviewing. So then I looked at the priorities that the Grimsby Green Advisory Committee has drafted for 2019-2022, and this is what was pulled up last month. And so what we want to do is ensure that we capture the work that Grimsby Green Advisory Committee is bringing forward and incorporate it into our framework, and find the ways in which the town can support the Grimsby Green Advisory Committee. So that's, we want to ensure that we're incorporating that into our framework. So when we're talking about tree plantings, is there an opportunity for the Grimsby Green Advisory Committee to go for a tree grant? There are many tree grants right now. NPCA, I believe, has one, as well with the the Trillion Trees Initiative, and there's lots of different initiatives. Can the town support Grimsby Green Advisory Committee in looking at tree planting, grant funding, and sort of do this this action together? Niagara Region is going through an official plan review right now. I think there's a really good link for the Grimsby Green Advisory Committee to get involved in commenting on the official plan with the Niagara Region to ensure that climate change is included in the official plan. So I think that's something that we would bring forward for the Grimsby Green Advisory Committee to comment. Advocacy, again, like I said, it's important that we bring legislative changes to the Grimsby Green Advisory Committee to comment and bring forward their concerns, issues that they would want to see in a legislative change. Again, and getting involved in Niagara Adapts through education and awareness, as well as community action on climate adaptation, and is important action as well. There are a lot of opportunity for NPCA partnerships and grant funding applications. And again, the Grimsby Green Advisory Committee merging and working with other organizations in the community to move environmental action forward.
Chair, if I can interrupt for just a second, could I ask if Suzanne can enlarge the screen possibly by taking the slides from the left side off?
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So our next steps will be that we are working on a climate change and environment report to council. So we want to bring this framework to council and have a discussion on some of those pieces that we're looking to move forward. For instance, the Partners for Climate Protection, and a discussion around what actions and strategy we think we can achieve in 2021 and what we'll be looking for 2022. So we want to continue with the planned and budgeted environmental actions this year as well. We do have tree plantings and other different pieces of work. Like I said, the energy audits and energy conservation demand management plan that we're doing. And then from that, we really want to build the strategy for corporate climate change action. So ensuring that we have a target and we're working towards that target. So that's really it from me for our presentation, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Suzanne. That's very comprehensive and educational. I just asked Director Sweeney if maybe after we can have the presentation circulated as well, saved with the agenda and circulated to committee members for further, they can have a further look at it. Meanwhile, I'll open the floor if any of the committee members want to ask Suzanne a question directly. You can just put up your hand or use the raise hand or just wave your hand wildly. Any questions for Suzanne about her presentation? Carl.
So, as said, it's a very comprehensive program, and we're just starting out. We've got areas which we are interested in, and tonight we're supposed to set our priorities, 3 priorities. Suzanne, do you have any advice for the committee in terms of where you think the committee can help out the most, where it's most advantageous? It's a very aggressive program. Can't do everything all at once. Need to focus, have some early success stories. Have you got any advice for the committee?
Sure. And actually, it's something Sarah and I have talked about, what we feel the Grimsby Green Advisory Committee could really tackle this year in a situation where, COVID has added a whole other layer as to what you can get done as a group out in the public. And I'd be happy to defer to Sarah to answer some of this as well. But one thing we thought might be a good opportunity is looking at the tree planting initiative. Looking at a community tree planting initiative where we could find a potential partner, if it's a corporate partnership or a grant funding application for tree plantings, and then it's outdoors. We could bring the community together, and the town would be able to support. And Sarah can definitely speak to that, as well as what kind of support the town can provide. Whether it's the Grimsby Green Advisory Committee looks to procure or to do the grant funding application, but we can help with the procurement of the trees or the equipment needed to plant the trees. So I do think there's an opportunity, and because trees right now, it is a significant grant funding opportunity out there for climate change. It's really risen to the top for funding. That might be a good sort of quicker win for this committee. I think the litter pickup initiatives that you were speaking about last week is also a great initiative with the spring cleanup. There is opportunity there for the town to also support with that work. I do think though there is also the committee could really put on their radar as a standing agenda item, looking at commenting on legislation, advocacy, recommending resolutions for council, and that the official plan review, getting involved and providing that policy support, I think would be great for the advisory committee. So I'm opening it to Sarah if there was anything that you wanted to add as well.
I think they're all great pieces through you, Chair. And maybe we can touch on a little bit more when we get into those priority items. Carl, you also shared some priority items with the group that I think are all really great ones to consider. So hopefully this framework gives us some more inspiration as to a few items that we might want to focus on.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. I think Suzanne's answer was a good answer. I think we need to focus, and I think it gives us an area to focus on, something that we can actually do, something make a difference.
Anyone else have any further questions for Suzanne?
I just have one question.
Councillor Sharp?
When you talk about tree planting, I know I asked this before. Are we talking about big full-grown trees? Or are we talking about saplings? Or are we talking about just young trees?
So
can we define the difference when we talk about it? Like, because when I think of tree planting, I think of like planting 1,000 saplings, like the little guys.
Yeah, through you, Chair. It can be both. It depends on the planting application, or if you can do both. You can do saplings in woodlots or certain areas that require reforestation, or for instance, there's been a lot of work with emerald ash more devastated areas that you can do. Saplings and tree plantings. If we're looking at climate change, the saying for climate change right now is the best tree is the tree that was planted 20 years ago. So we are, there is grant funding opportunities to look at larger trees because those are the trees we need to put in for climate change action. So it can be either one.
In the future, when we talk about tree planting, can we define if we're talking about which either type? When we do, like, because I know there's a different budget, obviously, for planting saplings, or
So
what would you call the other trees?
So I think, Councillor Sharp, I think when we get through looking at our priorities as part of the committee meeting, that will come up as something that we can establish with Director Sweeney and stuff in our mandate, and how we expect to fund it and work with the town on it, and put in some parameters, I think, into the document that if we choose to work on that as a priority, I think we can frame it through a group exercise.
So, something that would be really cool, because I know it's inexpensive to buy those really small saplings. If we ever do that, and if we could procure more than what we need and give an option for residents to buy saplings for their own property at our rate, because like we might be able to buy, 2,000 saplings for the same price as 1,000 saplings. like, and so then if we put out a call and say, hey, if there's anybody who might be interested in planting 100 saplings on their property, like we are selling them for $1 each or something, right? Like, or whatever our rate is, I don't know, but that'd be a way to get people involved without any cost to us. We can kind of just pass on our whatever you call that. We buy them in bulk, so we save. That would be something.
Yep.
We can consider it later.
It's a great point, and I think that once we get to the point of determining, how we're going to fund it, where our source of money is going to come from, whether it's grants or whatever, then we definitely use our Suzanne there, who's our procurement expert, to negotiate and wield the heavy hammer and say, we want this, and then we try to get the best deal we can for the amount of money that we have available to spend. So I think is that your job, Suzanne, is to help us out with procuring with the limited resources of money that we have, getting the best bang for our buck, basically, right? Like Councillor Sharp is asking.
Yes, absolutely. And that was something we could definitely look at.
Thank you. Is there any other I think Mayor Jordan had his hand up. Mayor Jordan?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say that there's everything in between those trees too. There's essentially plants for every single budget, whether you go 1 gallon saplings, you go whips, or caliber trees. So there's a lot of choice out there, and we'll decide on that as a committee further down the road, depending on our budget, quite often, actually. So thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions from any other member? I have Chantel.
Hi. I had a question. I don't know if you can answer it. Regarding the waste reduction for facilities, you mentioned plastic water bottles in your presentation. I know when we first started the committee and we had our meetings at the town, they said that there was a contract with the supplier, so we couldn't really move on making those attempts at reducing plastic or installing water fountains that you can bring your own water bottle. Has that changed, or is that kind of a future goal or a hope? Sorry.
Yeah. So through you, Chair, like everything, there is it takes an operational change and a contract change, which is why it's really important that we create this strategy so that we capture those actions. And when a contract comes up, we're looking at how can we eliminate waters and bottled water. Some contracts will maintain flavored water, or making sure that you provide options for water at the facility or reusable water bottles. So there would be a larger change, but that's definitely something that we would be incorporating it into a strategy. So I know that Sarah and I have already talked about this, and it's something that we'll be looking at. How can we phase out bottled water in our facilities?
Awesome, thanks.
Bruce.
Thank you, Doris, Chair Bothwell, and thank you, Suzanne, for your presentation. it certainly opens my eyes as to what the town has been doing behind what I call behind the scenes. At least I wasn't aware of this this initiative, so I applaud it. And I have a few things, not necessarily questions, but because I won't put you on the spot as to whether these things are being done or not. So I'm just going to sort of list them. One of them, I think the key one is communication that's required to make this work. It's communication within the town towers, of course, or the staff and the departments of this initiative, which the heads are probably already aware of. I don't know whether it's filtered down to the staff. And more importantly, the communication with the town. If I'm on this committee for one reason, it is to get the citizens and the residents of this town to buy into green initiatives. And I find this very, very important. And one of the reasons for this is that most of the land that's in the town is privately owned. And I compliment Councillor Sharp for a suggestion about trying to help residents buy a tree. But there's a whole bunch of things. You mentioned a pollinator garden. Every house in this town has the opportunity of planting 2 or 3 plants that bees might find attractive. And if every house planted 1 tree and 3 suitable flowering plants, we would have this tremendous pollinator garden spread across the town. So that's why some of the things where I talk about communication. And I think this committee or the town needs to roll out a communication plan once it decides on the initiatives that it's going to take on that. Trees. I think before we get too far down the road with trees, a tree plan is required for the town. Now, this is a lofty goal, but we could plant a lot of trees in a lot of different areas, but if it's not done with the plan, then you have to ask, are you getting your best bang for the buck? As an example, a simple one, a tree planted on the south side of the road is more beneficial to climate change than a tree planted in a field. Nothing wrong with trees and fields. But when you start to talk about trees, we need to talk about shade potential and shading hard surfaces that act as heat sinks. So I'll leave it with that. A tree plan is needed. A tree bylaw for private properties should be on the table for discussion. Now that is something that could be in the planning department, but that ties in very well with you're talking about development standards, and so it's related in my mind. And with development standards you mentioned, I'd like to see on the list low impact development strategies, and I think I see you nodding your head. This is good. You know about that. And natural landscaping in developments, the amount of vegetation that needs to be planted. And if we look at some neighborhoods, we see very little soil. The new neighborhoods, we see a lot of hard surfaces, concrete, rooftops, but we don't see softer surfaces for water retention, water absorption, and for shade. The only shade in the new developments, in some of them, is created by the buildings. That's not the right kind of shade we're looking for. Would like to see statistics on salt use and the policy of salt use by the town. I'd like to see it come to this committee for review. Invasive plants, talk about trees. The town of Grimsby, I feel, needs to have a policy on invasive plants, the ones that are causing environmental harm or are toxic. We have these, and I'm so happy you talked about the electric vehicle in the Parks Department. Is that a truck or a utility vehicle?
It's an SUV, yeah.
Okay, great. I can see the Bylaw Department next, being that, because their vehicles, I think, would blend in very, very well with electric vehicles. And that is sort of my list for today. So I compliment you for your work, and I make these suggestions so that because they've been on my list for a long time, and I look forward to working with everybody as we move forward with these goals and determining how to measure their success. I have one last question, Chair Bothwell. Suzanne, you've noted that mid-April is a report going to council? Okay, so this committee, sorry.
Through you, Chair, we were planning for the report to go April 19th to Committee of the Whole.
So through you, Chair Suzanne, that report won't be seen by this committee until after the fact.
Through you, Chair, yes. And this report is more of an information report and bringing forward the climate change framework. So I'm happy to take comments today from the Grimsby Green Advisory Committee on the climate change framework. As well, the report will not include a climate change strategy or the energy conservation demand management plan or pieces like that, as those are developed, and there is definitely a place to bring those to the Grimsby Green Advisory Committee for input and comment. In my mind, I don't see a strategy going forward without being brought to the Grimsby Green Advisory Committee first for review and comment.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you, Chair Bothwell.
Councillor Sharp.
Sorry, I'm just not, I have some to talk about, some fundraising, but I don't know if this is the right time. Where are we on the?
So that you can come up later in the agenda with that, Councillor Sharp. Right now, we're just going to receive the presentation, and I'm just asking if there's any further questions for directly on Ms. Madden's presentation.
Okay, I thought so. I'll save it till, let me know when I can bring that up.
Certainly, thank you. Any other questions to Suzanne on her presentation? Carl.
Through you, Madam Chair, is there any differentiation between the Parks Department, who seems to be leading this initiative, versus other departments? Or is it just that you had to pick somebody and Sarah wasn't busy, so she ended up with this task? Sorry, just kidding. Suzanne, is this corporate wide? Like, does this include Public Works as well as Parks and Recreation?
So through you, Chair, climate change action cannot sit in one place. It has to be embedded in all operations and services. So there is a role for every department and every person at the town to take climate action. The idea right now is that we need a person to sort of help bring this forward as a framework and a strategy, and then to filter it out to the different departments to take on climate change action. If it is owned in one place, it'll sit on the shelf and it won't get done. So the importance is getting it embedded in every department as the business as usual.
Sarah, did you have anything to add to that?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute Carl for some reason. Yeah, other than, certainly the kickoff of this committee was something our department was very involved in, but as Suzanne said, the approach going forward is not that it exists only with one department, and the framework that she's putting together and will be presenting is definitely corporate wide. So Hopefully you'll see some other faces, and I think a lot of the pieces that we'll be touching on really do go among a variety of departments. So you will probably see others, as I said, at the table at various times, and we're really trying to all work together to view this as a collective for the corporation, but also for the community as a whole as well.
Thanks, Sarah. Carl, did you have anything else you needed to add? Did I cut you short?
No.
You're all good? Anybody
good.
else? You're all good? Okay. Anybody else have any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I've got a motion to resolve that the climate change and environmental sustainability and framework presentation be received. I need a mover and a seconder, please. It's moved by Haley, seconded by Chantel. Thank you. All in favor? That's carried. Sorry, that's carried. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a discussion on the notice of motion. Notice of motion received by council on the March 22nd, 2021 phase out of all gas-fired electricity generation. Director Sweeney.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank Suzanne first for her presentation again, and I am going to turn this one over to her as well. This was a notice of motion that was presented by Councillor Cadwell, but I know Suzanne provided a fair bit of support towards it as well, so she's definitely the best person to speak to it. So Suzanne, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thank you. Through you, Chair. Does everyone have the motion in front of them, or would you like me to pull it up on the screen and share it? Is there a preference? Just wait, do you want me to put it up on the screen?
Yeah, please,
Okay.
please do so. Thank you.
Okay. So this is the motion that Councillor Cadwell put forward at the Committee of the Whole meeting on March 22nd. So this motion is in regards to an initiative that came out of the Clean Air Alliance. The Clean Air Alliance has put forward a proposal to municipalities, residents of Ontario to speak to the provincial government on stopping the increase and development of natural gas-fired generation plants. So currently there is a planning an issue with how much electricity we need to generate for the next 20 years. This is planned through the Independent Electricity System Operator, as well as the Ministry of Energy Development and Mines. So as I'm sure all of you are aware, the Ontario government chose to phase out coal generation. And this cleaned our electricity grid and electricity generation to actually be the cleanest grid in North America, and which means to be the lowest emission in generating electricity. So with the new plan that has come out through this provincial government, as nuclear gas or nuclear generation is phasing out, the Ontario government has proposed that they develop gas-fired plant power peaking plants. So peaking plants that are being developed in communities to deal with peaking events for electricity demand in the province. And what this would do is increase greenhouse gas emissions and increase them by, reversing the work of the coal-fired generation removal. So this initiative from the Clean Air Alliance has called on municipalities to put forward resolutions to ask the Minister of Environment, Conservation, and Energy Parks to not use gas-fired generation as the method of planning for the electricity demand increase, which is coming from growth, as well as the demand for electrification through electric vehicles, as well the GO train, electrifying the GO train and different pieces like that. So this resolution by Councillor Caswell is looking for that support from Council to say, let's not use gas-fired generation as the method of meeting our energy and electricity demands. So that's all I really have. I can answer any questions about that. Otherwise, here's the resolution. I do think it would be supportive to add a line in this resolution that says that the Grimsby Green Advisory Committee is in support of this resolution. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. And I'll just, if we get back to full screen here, just to let the committee know that at this moment, that is just a notice of motion. It has not been heard yet by council. So technically we're not in a position just to discuss it. It will come back on our agenda at the end of the April meeting. And at that time, I'm expecting that it will incorporate some of council's comments as well. And we'll have a little bit more information to provide to the committee. So I don't know that we can endorse it at this point. It's not even on the floor, actually. The notice of motion is as it's written by Councillor Cadwell, can't really be amended by us as a committee, I don't think. Can the clerk speak to that, please?
Through the chair, I would just be receiving this for information purposes, and it can be further discussed at your next meeting, once council has an opportunity to discuss it at their next meeting on April 6th.
So thank you, clerk. So that it's not that we're not going to have a chance to comment. It's just we don't have input into the actual wording of the motion. If one of the councillors wishes to, well, I mean, I don't even know if one of the councillors can seek to add something to it when it comes to council. We'll just have to see, but we can't really say that Grimsby Green endorses it because we haven't had a fulsome discussion on it. So I would suggest that at this point, we're just receiving it. I don't have a motion to receive. If the clerk could just, I think if you could just draft one up to receive, I'll just ask for a mover and a seconder to receive. Councillor Sharp.
I'm just wondering, why can't we have a discussion on it? Why can't we endorse it?
Because at this point, it's a notice of motion. It's not actually a motion that has been introduced to council. So as the clerk said, I don't believe we're in a position to endorse a notice of motion. And I'll just have her clarify that.
Through the chair, that would be correct.
So at this point, we're just going to receive the.
So on this, I have just a question. So procedurally, the councillor has to give notice that he's bringing a motion, and then the motion will be voted on at the next meeting at April 6th. And so this notice gets circulated to us, but we can't endorse or so like, why is the council required to give notice?
Okay,
when the people that receive it, we can only just receive.
I hear you.
Right, and then so it's not like the notice will be given on April 6th, and then the vote will happen on April 21st. The vote will actually happen on April 6th. There's no time, so this notice is for us to comment to it.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. I'll just ask Mayor Jordan. I think he's got a comment to make on that, and then I'll go back to the clerk. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. What it is if it came directly to this council, or sorry, this committee, if it came directly to this committee, we could discuss it now. But it actually is a notice of motion from council, and it's just put on our agenda. So it can only be received and not even discussed. But it would have to come from, like, if it started at this committee, then went to council, then we could discuss it fulsomely. So it's the timing and where it went first. That's why we can't move forward on it.
So that's what the clerk has confirmed as well, Councillor Sharp. So at this point, I understand that we can only receive the notice of motion on our agenda. Are you good with that?
I said the rules are the rules.
Thank you. So can I have a mover and a seconder to just receive the notice of motion? I've got a hand, Bruce, and a seconder, please. Chantel, thank you very much. So that's just all carried to receive that. Please.
So maybe can one of us, can we make a delegation now that we've been given notice to this? Can we make a delegation to the committee of the whole on the night of when the council meeting? So this will be a motion on April 6th. So if we wanted to comment or add our input to it, and we can't do it through an endorsement, we could do it through a delegation on the night of April 6th when it will be voted on.
I don't think we can do it as a delegation, Councillor Sharp, because it's a committee representation and it would have to be all of us having had a fulsome discussion prior to making a delegation, and that's not possible at this point, what I understand from the clerk. So it wouldn't be an individual person speaking on behalf of this committee.
So I'm just a little bit wondering what's the point? Why are we, I guess, why are we receiving this?
I believe it's for information so that we're able to follow the discussion that's going to happen at Committee of the Whole on April 6th when it comes forward. And depending on that discussion and the comments that come back to us at the end of April, Grimsby Green can certainly comment on it or add further to it or bring our own resolution forward to Committee of the Whole based on what happens at Council on April 6th. So we can still have a fulsome discussion at our next meeting on it and bring forward our own resolution through this committee based on whatever the discussion council has. Does that make sense?
Well, it just seems like it's a day late and a buck short, as they say. Like this will already be passed at council by the time we even discuss it. So I'm questioning.
Yeah, I'm just going to get the clerk. Thank you. I'm going to get the clerk just again to confirm the proper process. If you could please, clerk.
Through the chair, the motion will be going forward to the Committee of the Whole on April the 6th for their consideration. And like I had stated, this motion can come back up the next agenda to have a more fulsome discussion. Just to reiterate what the chair and Mayor Jordan has said.
Bruce, did you have a question that I saw your hand going there before I had the clerk clarify?
No, the clerk has clarified it for me. Thank you.
So I had a mover and I think I had a seconder. I had Chantel on that to receive. So I had just asked if everyone could just agree to receive that notice of motion. All in favor? Thank you. That's carried. We're going to move on to the next item, which is Earth Day, Earth Week, and I'll move this over to Director Sweeney.
Thank you. So I just wanted to touch on this again. We spoke about it briefly at our last meeting. A couple of things for Earth Day. The first one was Goose Chase. We are going to do another Goose Chase. That will be Earth Day and some spring activities as well. And just wanted to see if anybody had any feedback or ideas, different ways we could promote it. I do believe Haley may have had a few ideas that she wanted to suggest for ways that we could encourage people to participate with this app.
Yeah, most of my ideas were for the Goose Chase, and it would just be things like, because it's mostly photo and video based, like taking a photo of a new tree and an old tree, native and non-native species, like a show and tell for items like reusable water bottles, reusable bags, meatless meal, or a purchase at a secondhand store, and then activities like turning off the lights and electronics. What else would you do? watch the Lorax movie as a family, make an Earth Day poster, and then some art activities like clean and collect plastic microparticles and make a collage. Yeah, I had a big long list. I got a bit carried away, but yeah, I can share it if need be with the group.
So I'm wondering with that, what this group thinks about maybe creating a bit of a certificate and just doing, rather than a formal contest, because they get a little bit competitive, but we could do a bit of a few random shout outs from the Grimsby Green Committee. So if we found a few really good ones that came in that sort of fit the bill of Grimsby Green, we can sort of acknowledge those families through social media. We've been finding families really like that, and just kind of maybe give them the green thumbs up or something like this, and create just a little bit of a story around that, just to kind of promote that in the community and have a bit of fun with that. Just curious what your thoughts are, if you would be interested in doing that. That's something we could help kind of create the creative around it, but have it come from the Grimsby Green Committee. Any thoughts on that?
Chantel?
Not like a huge thought, just I really like that idea. And I know families like especially kids and stuff with social media, when they get to see like them and their family kind of have a spotlight or shared on social media, that kind of makes things cool or like enticing. So I like that.
So, certificate, Sarah, or like thumbs up, or are you going to do a little Grimsby Green logo thing? We were talking about how are you going to say it's from us?
Sure, through you, Chair. I was thinking like the green thumbs up is kind of fun just for kids. I mean, we could eventually turn it into more of a slogan. What we could do is create a little piece around social media where we pick a few over the duration. But I think a little certificate that we could drop off for families, maybe one or two of you from the committee, just drop it off at the house, you know, from a distance, give high fives, just kind of encouraging it in a positive way and acknowledging those that maybe are doing things in the community.
Councillor Sharp?
How do you get one of these green thumbs? Sorry if I missed that.
Through you, Chair. So we could talk about that. My thought would be, rather than get too competitive with the contest, is we could just randomly select a few through the Goose Chase that we thought were really creative and interesting. If you're not familiar with the Goose Chase, it's all photo driven. So when you do these activities and these various things, you put a photo to it. The agreement is that they share all their photos as well with us, so we can post them. So I could work with our staff to gather a group of them. We'll just pick a few favorites that we thought are really creative and fun and use those ones. So I don't think we would make it a too much of a contest, just kind of keep it random for the most part. And eventually maybe it does come into more of a contest.
Yeah, that's very cool. What do we need? Do we need a resolution or?
What I would like through you, Chair, is if there's one or two of you on the group tonight that would maybe be interested to help do this and select them, so it's not just staff doing it. We could work with you and you could help select them, maybe hand out certificates to families. We won't take a lot of your time, but it'd be a great little way to get you involved. So if there's one or two or three of you that would like to do that as a bit of a task force, we could take that away and report back to the committee on what we get.
So I guess what we're asking for is volunteers to help Sarah with this recognition with the Goose Chase. I've got Haley, got Chantel, and Councillor.
I would volunteer for delivery.
Yep. Okay, and Councillor Sharp will be helping with that as
I'll
well.
Be a delivery guy.
Well, let's I'll leave that with Sarah, Director Sweeney, to look at the strengths of each of our three volunteers here, and she'll delegate. So that's great. Director Sweeney, I was also thinking with your Goose Chase, and you mentioned that it's all photo driven. Just wondering, one of the thoughts I had was reading a book on and taking a picture with them reading a book, because it encourages literacy and helps with the library. And you take a picture of them after they've read the book with, you know, something to do with Mother Earth or climate change, or just green and like, so I don't know how you want to word that, but something to do with Mother Earth stuff, and then a book. And the other thing I thought about was everybody likes to sing karaoke or TikTok or something. And I don't know if on if the Goose Chase app allows for video. So if they want to sing a song about Earth, climate change, whatever, or I not steal one from one of their favorite musicians, but you know, either a homemade one or just a short clip, and then everybody loves to hear themselves sing in the shower. So maybe, you know, kids, whatever, just an Earth Day centered, Earth Week centered musical clip is an idea. Anyway, those are just some of my ideas. Anybody else have any with regards to the Goose Chase app? Anything else?
I want to say both of those ideas are great. Yes, you can do video. We had at least one father do a version of Let It Go. So there's some pretty good ones out there. So definitely those both could be done as well. So that's great. Thank you guys for your interest in this.
Want to move on to the next one?
Sure. Just next piece is, I think we're going to do a few social media posts that week, just encouraging some, you know, earth-friendly ideas that can be done from home rather than maybe continue on in the meeting specifically, unless somebody has something they want to mention. Feel free to toss ideas our way. We'll try and do a couple different posts about it throughout the week and just encourage that as well. And then also weave our Goose Chase into that as well. I did want to just mention as well, though, we are going to be doing a work with the Grimsby Garden Club is actually doing an Earth Day tree planting, kind of along the lines of what we're talking about. And I think they could be a great partner going forward. They've made a connection with, I think it's Niagara Native as well, which is a group that promotes native tree species as well. And they've done some work and they've made some arrangements working with Ontario Green and some local nurseries where they are purchasing some trees at a bulk price. I don't know the size, Councillor Sharp, but I can probably find out. And as doing it as a garden club initiative where they'll be bringing the trees here. They're actually going to bring them to the Peach King Center. We're probably going to help them with pickup as well. And they will be trees that can be planted in residential area homes. We have confirmed that they'll all be of the Carolinian variety. So they agreed to work with us on that, which is good news as well. So it's a project that's going to have a short turnaround, but they're really keen to partner with this group going forward in other years as the Grimsby Garden Club, which I think could be a great connection for this group to maybe grow that program further next year or sometime you know, later in another year as well. So we'll let you know what the outcome of that is, and I'll share that with you as well if it's something you want to share with your networks. But I think it could be a great partnership. So I did ask her once the program's complete, I think she'll come to our meeting and just talk a little bit about what they did. And we can see if that's something we might want to join in with them on as well.
And then I think anything else under other ideas, or is that pretty well it for?
That's it for me, unless somebody else has anything they would like to add under Earth Week.
Haley?
Yeah, I was just wondering, have any cleanups been organised through the town, or is that left to other groups to organise themselves?
Through your chair, we did not organize any this year, mostly because the Rotary is doing their cleanup that we are actually participating as well. So that's sort of become quite a big cleanup. And again, they are still welcoming participants. If anybody does want to volunteer, just send me an email. I can make sure I can give you connections to that. I believe a few of you may already be participating. That said, sometimes we do get smaller groups that want to do cleanups. And just so you know, we will support them on that. So sometimes if they want to do cleanups in our parks, we'll work with them. We'll provide bags and gloves and various things, and we'll also do the garbage pickup. We just work individually with whoever the organizer is and make sure that gets done as well.
Sorry,
Chantel?
can I? Yeah, sorry.
Haley, sorry, I'll let Haley finish. Yeah, did you?
Sorry, yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Sorry, Chantel?
Yeah, sorry for jumping in there. If my household or like my group wants to do a cleanup just because that's what they're comfortable with, do I reach out to you, Sarah? Do I email the town to set up, like, to get bags and where to take the garbage or drop it off or something like that?
Yeah, Chantal, probably the easiest is get in touch with me and we'll put you in touch with the right people and we'll help see that you can get what you need so you can get that done. And thank you.
Perfect. I'd love to do it as a group, but I've people in the household that we can't take that risk. So
Absolutely.
So Director Sweeney, is this something that on social media, can we as Grimsby Green, can you send it out on our behalf saying that the, Grimsby Green and the Parks Department supports local initiatives on cleanups, and please contact you for the supports that they need, but making it sound like it comes from the committee as a, that we're reaching out just to let you know this is something that the town is willing to share with small family, like the small groups, whatever, socially distanced using COVID protocol, blah, blah, blah. Is that something that you can push out through the town media for us?
Yes, we definitely can do that. So we can share a little bit about how you can get involved in a cleanup and where you can get information. And we can make sure it's on our website as well. It may not be in quite the in the detail that it could be. So great point.
Thanks, Chantel, and thanks, Director Sweeney. I think that's great. And it makes people more aware, like yourself, like you're saying, to do it on your own. It lets other people and other small groups that might want to do it realize that the town does support those initiatives, even though we're not doing one big one as Grimsby Green, or at this point, that we still want to be there to help support the smaller groups like yourself to have the tools to go and do that. So that's great.
Sorry. I'd also be fine with taking a picture of my group and like submitting it, Sarah, if you wanted to post it on social media to encourage like other smaller groups.
That would be perfect. Thank you, Chantel.
If I can just chime in through the chair.
Councillor Sharp.
So I know that the Rotary watershed cleanup, it's really a much more individual thing. It's not a group. So you could volunteer through the Rotary with just your family to go clean up an area. So they do have some volunteers who are going to work together, but there are some other service groups and some other people who have said, like, I'll do this street or this area, and that's on April 24th, and that's through the Grimsby Rotary, Grimsby and Lincoln Rotary. But I think they're doing it across the province, like the Great Lakes watershed cleanup. But we are we're doing it locally with Grimsby and Lincoln. But I just wanted to say that it's not a big group thing. So like, there's a lot of people who are just volunteering in a group of 3 or 4 and are cleaning up like a certain street, and that's it.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. I'm gonna, if there's no further, I want to make sure I don't, oh, Bruce.
Chair Bothwell, thank you. If I could just add to that. First one is to continue on with Councillor Sharp's discussion about Earth Day, April 24th, Rotary Club. The organizers for the Rotary Club are having a Zoom meeting tomorrow. I think at that meeting it's going to be announced, because of COVID restrictions, that groups have to be limited to 5 or less, and that they'll have to register with the Rotary Club. And the website should be released tomorrow. With COVID, it's becoming a very, very complicated job, unfortunately, for citizens to dig into this. And I have a question for Sarah, or for the committee for that matter, and stop me if it's not allowed to be on the agenda at this time, but it's coming. I'm speaking to other ideas, and it's related to litter pickup. I've heard say that the biggest contributor to litter in our communities is from blue boxes. Now, blue boxes and recycling is a regional responsibility, but it lands on all of our streets, backyards, in our watersheds, in our public areas. The region of Niagara has a very good communication program about how to use the recycling and composting program. But nowhere is it mentioned in all of their materials the management of blue and gray boxes on windy days. Now, it is common sense, but communities across Ontario have a severe problem with litter being blown out of blue boxes and gray boxes. Some communities, I think, have conquered this by providing boxes with lids. That's an expense. But I suggest that Grimsby, part of communication, emphasizing the need for the public to organize their blue and gray boxes so that there's less likelihood of materials blowing out of them. And if the town won't do this, I would like to see a town make a resolution to the region saying, you're causing a litter problem in the town. Please come up with solutions to reduce this litter in Niagara by how you communicate with the public and work with the public in managing blue and gray boxes. Because we can have these Rotary days once a week, but unless blue and gray boxes are dealt with, we're not gonna, all we're doing is cutting the hair. We're not stopping it from growing. Thank you, Chair Bothwell.
Director Sweeney, just a question. This committee has the ability to write resolutions and recommendations. Based on what Bruce just said, are we able under this agenda item to draft a resolution to a recommendation to Committee of the Whole to request the region look at education and outreach with respect to blue box materials and windy on weather circumstances that impact litter disbursement in the community or something. Are we able to do that?
I'm glancing at our clerk a little bit for her expertise on the matter. However, I am going to toss in one thought maybe before we proceed. Something I was going to raise at the end of the meeting was I had a lovely conversation from somebody from Niagara Region Waste Management about having her come and just talk a little bit about some of what they are doing, some of the communication tools they do have. And I wonder, would it be worthy to have them come as a delegation and just talk to our committee first so that we can learn about maybe what they do and what they would suggest, and then from there make a determination on what we might want to recommend. Thank you. I'm seeing a thumbs up. So if the committee likes that idea, I would be happy to set that up and hopefully for next meeting. She was quite happy to come and talk to us, and she was had a wealth of knowledge, and I think that's their expertise. So it'd be great to maybe interact with them first, if that's agreeable.
Bruce, does that sound like a plan?
That is most welcome news. Thank you, Director Sweeney.
And thank you to the others who are in agreement. Councillor Sharp, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I did. Through the chair, this might be something that we can eventually get to through our participation. We could do something like make a video, right, on how to properly organize your recycle bin, right? You could have somebody out there with a leaf blower, right, and you could have your recycle bin set out, and you could show, like, look at, this is what the wind can do to your bin, and get it out on the street. And then you could pack it in neat, and then you can take the same leaf blower and kind of just emphasize the fact that, like, because I know I'm guilty of it. Sometimes early in the morning on Wednesday is our day, and like, it's just everything gets, and then like as I'm carrying it out to the road, stuff's falling out of the top, and it's great that I have that much recycle. It's not going into my garbage, but I actually got new bins. The new bins are deeper, and that's helpful. But you know, sometimes at 6:30 or 7 in the morning, you're not thinking of maybe we can give people just some tips on how to do that.
Okay, so your job, Councillor Sharp, is to start with your children and do some test videos, and then you can have it, and Sarah will upload it for one of our next meetings. So you can give us, go ahead and start creating something. Go for it. Haley.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if this might be an opportunity for outreach to the residents in itself. is to ask for them to come up with some ideas, not just comments, but actually like an actual plan of what they would suggest they do to combat that.
So Sarah, can we use our tools available to us? Can we use Let's Talk Grimsby? Can we do something, or is that too early? How do you see us reaching out?
My suggestion would be, it's a great suggestion, definitely. I think we should let's make sure we're clear on what the region suggests, so we can use it not only as a feedback opportunity, but as an education opportunity. And they'll probably help us with that. So Haley, I agree, it's a great idea. I think it'd be worthy though, just to hear what they have. I think they have some tools we could even use. So then we can make sure we're working with them. Ideally, I do think we work with them on this matter, if that's agreeable.
So Councillor Sharp, you might have to refine your videos after the region speaks. So maybe you want to wait until the region speaks and then start putting your videos together, just so you don't have to
No,
read
yeah, I will, but I'm really serious. I have a camera and a tripod.
I am
like
too.
We can do
Yeah.
cool videos. Like,
Yeah.
it gets so much more attention with a video than it does with
And
like a post.
the challenge is out there for any members of this committee with, your family, your friends, your children, whatever, to go ahead and start doing some little videos, whatever, make some clips up, make some fun stuff. And then we can always share it with Sarah, and depending on when, it's appropriate, we can look at whether those are things that we can use as part of our outreach. So feel free while you're in COVID containment and looking for something exciting to do and educational with your children or your family, go ahead and make some little quickie little video clips. Mayor Jordan.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to Sarah. Yeah, I agree to get the region in here and have them present and give us some tips and everything, because they are the controller of the waste management, and then we move forward from that. So I think that's the best way to go. Thanks.
Perfect, thank you. And I will just say your Parks Department thanks you, because there are many a time when we are picking up litter in the parks as well. So I will reach out, and hopefully for next meeting, we can have somebody attend.
Thanks, Mayor Jordan. Thanks, Director Sweeney. That sounds like a good plan. That gives us a starting point for what our next steps are with outreach. So and if there's any other questions with respect to those discussion items, Earth Day, Earth Week, anything else that somebody just really wants to say, then I'm going to move on to the next item, which is the committee priorities. I don't have a motion for the receiving the others. So the committee priorities, and Director Sweeney again.
Sure. So I guess two thoughts I have. One is we do have 2 members missing, and hopefully 2 new members that will join us for next meeting. So I think we might want to start this today, but also make sure that some of our other members have an opportunity to chime in. That said, hopefully we can set some goals. I think we've somewhat actually done that over the course of this meeting. So perhaps some consideration should be given to that. Carl did send forward some ideas. Tree planting seems to have come up loud and clear. So I think we could agree that continuing some initiatives on tree planting is a focus. I do have a report that will be coming forward to Committee of the Whole talking about some Carolinian notice of motion. And it will be looking at a variety of things. And some of the things that I think this committee could participate in is we would like to do some tree identification and signage in one of our community parks, starting with one of our community parks, just to create a bit of awareness and interest about some of the species that are in our community. I guess just to back up, to me, I think what would work best with setting some of these priorities is set up a few other small task forces, much like we just did with the green thumbs up. If we can find a few people that are interested in working on some of these priorities and then coming back to the committee with some ideas, that hopefully keeps us moving along, keeps you engaged, keeps you interested. So the tree piece would be an interesting one. And I think a bit of an identification program might be something of interest. It doesn't have to be that, but it's one idea. And also just how can we do some education to the community about that in terms of what are Carolinian species? Why do we want to plan them? Where should they go? We can use our website for that, a variety of other tools. So that's one priority that seems to come out loud and clear with this group. But I will throw that back to you for comment. Another one is, Carl mentioned it, and I think it's a great, and I actually think it came from Councillor Sharp last year, was looking at doing a recognition program. So we just talked about doing that green thumbs up through Goose Chase, but maybe elevating this even more. There's a lot of businesses, not-for-profits, other organizations in our community that are doing great things. And I think bringing awareness and attention to those stories is a really great way to talk about some of the initiatives that are out there and encourage people to follow by example. So that might be another really interesting one. And then another priority we might want to set right now is advocating, as we said, for recycling bin containment. I think there could be a lot of interest around that idea. So those are just a couple of ideas I thought I'd throw out to you as a group. Up to you what you want to set as priorities and maybe who wants to raise their hand for what. But those are a few of the ideas.
Thanks, Director Sweeney. I'm sorry for bringing this up, but I have to do a motion just on receiving the Earth Day, Earth Week information be received. I just need a mover and a seconder for that. Chantel and seconder for and Haley. All in favor of receiving the Earth Day, Earth Week? Carried. And anybody want to comment on Director Sweeney's comment on the priorities? She's mentioned, Bruce?
Yes, thank you, Chair Dorothy. I'd like to compliment Director Sweeney for putting it all into a neat package for understanding there. And I just wanted to mention one other thing with related to this tree planting initiative and what I call natural landscapes. The Grimsby Garden Club, I think Director Sweeney mentioned earlier, I think we're all familiar that in the past, Grimsby Garden Club has had a Trillium Award awarded to homes in Grimsby that have displayed wonderful gardens. I understand that starting this year, they will have a new award for gardens that, I'm going to use the expression, reflect natural landscapes. I think this is something that the Green Committee may like to invite Marilyn, or I forget her last name for the moment, or another representative of the Grimsby Garden Club to this committee to speak about what they are proposing so that we may be able to endorse, tag along, support. We need to hear what they're proposing. And so that was my tag on to Director Sweeney's comment. Thank you.
Great comment, Director Sweeney.
That is a great piece, and yes, they are doing that. I have spoken with them because they are doing their Trillium Awards a little differently this year as well with COVID. So we can certainly invite them back. Perhaps the same group that comes back can also talk about that tree planting piece they're doing. So it might be a great opportunity to invite them to come and chat with you. So I will try to set that up as well. So I guess throwing it out to all of you as best I can, do we want to pick up a few of these tasks, maybe even just one or two right now? And are there a few of you that might want to jump into doing a bit of the work towards some of this stuff, obviously with support from us as well? So which tasks are you talking about? Sorry, so for the tasks, tree planting was one we talked about. Even if it's identification of in parks, a recognition program that we could do a bit of an outreach for, and also that recycling bin containment, although maybe we want to hold on that one until we've talked to the region, or anything else. It could be other things as well that we've talked about as we've gone along.
Councillor Sharp.
So I'm interested in some of those. I like the recognition program, and I like the tree planting. I was just writing an email to Bruce. I'd like to learn a little more about what are native trees, and like it'd be, if we could do a Coles Notes list, like 10 native species, like that you could choose from. I know some, I probably know more than most people know, but I don't know that much. And I mean, I have Google accessible to me, so everything is at my fingertips, but it'd be cool if we could summarize it somehow. And so I think those are cool. And sorry to change the topic or the subject, but I wanted to speak earlier about fundraising. And I talked a little bit to Sarah Sweeney, to Director Sweeney, and I guess to Brandon Wortman about rain barrels, like for collecting water off the roof of the homes. And there's a guy or a company rainbarrels.ca. They recycle food grade barrels that bring like olives and peppers and stuff here from Greece or somewhere, and then they repurpose them into rain barrels. And they do like programs through municipalities where they actually do all the work. They sell the rain barrels to the residents, and then a portion is donated to the town. The barrels, I think, are $50, and $10 of each proceed goes to the town or the charity. In this case, it would be the Green Committee or maybe the town. I don't know. Do you remember that discussion, Sarah? And is that something that we could do as a Green Committee initiative?
Councillor Sharp, I do recall that conversation. What I would suggest maybe is if we can continue this conversation, you can share that resource with me again. We can make sure it's something we could do, but we could bring it back to this committee for consideration. I mean, that's something you often do in the spring. I don't know if you could do it this year, but it's definitely something you could explore. I would suggest if we collect a portion of funds towards it, that if we were intentionally putting it towards tree planting or something along those lines, it's something we could do. But we'd have to just look into it a bit more. It was something that was done quite a number of years ago. Actually, I think they were giveaways at that time, perhaps even through the region, and quite a number of people did take up that offer. So I think it's definitely something, if the committee is interested, we could certainly explore it further.
I'm just wondering, sorry, Councillor Sharp, just
the fact that we don't have any budget.
Yeah, I just wondered because
fundraise.
I think, Sarah, you need to look at that, whether or not it's because we're actually taking taxpayers' money, and whether or not it has to be through a nonprofit organization, a component of the town of Grimsby, or a garden club if they have a nonprofit arm that we partner with. Because I don't know whether, Councillor Sharp, whether I think we'll have to investigate that further to see whether we have the legal ability to take taxpayers' money and put it in the town's coffers.
Well, but it's not. It's like somebody giving us a donation, right? So we get a $10 donation for every rain barrel. So somebody could say, hey, I could say, Sarah, listen, I want to give $100 to the Green Committee, and then I could do that. And so in this case, what's happening is that it's the rainbarrels.ca who coordinates the donation through.
Yeah.
We'd have to look at the stipulations around it, but we can look at it. And if not, as a partner organization could be another way to do it. So if we can look at that in more detail, at least bring it back, I can gather some more of that information to see how we could do it. It doesn't have to funnel through us, but I'd have to look at it further and probably have other.
You know, it doesn't have to be rain barrels either, but it'd be nice to do some kind of fundraising so that we could maybe give a $50 gift card to a local restaurant as a prize for one of our little competitions. It'd be nice to have a small budget through fundraising for our committee to support our initiatives. And I'm not talking support our tree planting necessarily, but it'd be great if we could fundraise that. But it'd be cool if we could give away $50 gift cards to Cole's Garden Center or something, right? Like at the appropriate time of year.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Bruce?
Yes, and I applaud Councillor Sharp's idea of rain barrels. He's always been a strong proponent of those kind of things. But I would like to suggest that rain barrels come under the heading of green infrastructure. And green infrastructure, I may suggest through you to Suzanne, that green infrastructure should be highlighted in that list of projects or subjects that go forward to the planning committee, the planning department, and the council, because rain barrels are just one piece of green infrastructure. And and another thing is, I never envisioned, and with all respect to you, Councillor Sharp, that a citizen committee like this need to have a budget or need to fundraise. That is not why I'm at the table tonight. That's a council decision of how public money is collected and spent. It's not in our purview. I wish to follow providing advice to the town on green initiatives, and then for the town through its staff and council to make those decisions about how they're going to put wheels on the car. And like I say, with respect to you, Dave, but that's not why I'm here. We're signed up for this. We have, our energies can be spent otherwise.
Thanks, Bruce. Dave, did you have a comment back on that, or?
Yeah, it's just, I mean, if we decide to make some temporary tattoos or something, right? Like I've done that before, and you can do it fairly inexpensively, but I spent maybe $116 making 1,000 little 1.5 by 1.5 temporary tattoos, but you got to come up with $100 somehow. And so certain types of fundraising, like for example, this, because it's, in this case, we would be providing people with a way to manage the water that comes off their roof and use it for their gardens and lawns. And we could generate $10, it was, per barrel. So it's essentially, it's a donation from the guy who sells the barrels. But I'm not looking to make a profit here, but we do have some expenses. I would like to be able to make some stickers or like.
Okay. So Councillor Sharp, thank you. I appreciate, I think you raised this at the last meeting as well. And Sarah, Director Sweeney also mentioned, I think she's going to look into whether we can get swag, like a little bit of money for some Grimsby Green swag or things that we can hand out at events and stuff. So I think that the best route at this point is we'll leave it with Director Sweeney to investigate further with you on opportunities for the rain barrel program, either through Suzanne and somehow through as Bruce has mentioned, through the town's responsibilities as part of the infrastructure, or whether and what we have available to us as funding available through the town, or opportunities for swag. So we'll definitely keep that on the radar, and we'll leave that with Director Sweeney to come back to the committee with some options and suggestions on that. Okay, thank you. Do I have any other questions from members on the priorities, and anyone else willing to put their hand out and help Director Sweeney with any of the initiatives that may not have already? Carl, go ahead.
I just want to reiterate tree planting. I'm obviously interested, so I volunteered to lead a group or do whatever to be part of that. I've already researched some of the programs that are available, and I don't know whether, I mean, I think it's good that you concentrate on Carolinian species, but they are, in my opinion, rather expensive. And you may want to consider some other native species as well. There's a program for maple trees whereby I think you buy 3, you get the 4th one for free. You need a participating nursery. I'd be willing to research some of that kind of stuff. Bruce, I might even be able to throw in some money or some land or some ideas. I've done some research on, we can, if we want to, I suppose we can even harvest our own seeds and grow our own trees. It depends how far you want to take this. So anyways, on the other thing, the recognition program, having spent a great deal of my career with builders, I've learned that if you don't toot your own horn, nobody's going to do it. So you've got to have a good recognition program, and it shouldn't just be gardens or this. Like the builders, they got a program for the guy that has the best doorknob on the kitchen cabinets. You know, they have so many. They have as many awards as they have builders in their group, and I think we could learn from that. I think people, all it is a little piece of paper. You put a frame around it, and people are so thankful. And that might cost you $1. So anyways, I'll shut up and listen.
Thank you very much, Carl. Director Sweeney, is that something that we can even look at, you know, a policy, bringing it into the Civic Recognition Awards that you're hosting now, a new category of some kind?
Through you, Chair, we could. The problem with civic recognition is it's done once a year, and sometimes these things you want to be very situational and timely. My suggestion would be we maybe use that type of the framework of that policy to develop a bit of our own recognition program that we can kind of just run with when it's timely. So if there's interest from 2 or 3 of you, I could certainly share some of that content and we could start to look at how do we start this, right? It can start small and it can grow as well, but I think it would be great to shout out to some of the businesses, developers, community groups, whomever is making some of those efforts, and let's give them some attention and hopefully encourage others to do similar by seeing that. If there's interest in that, maybe there's a few little hands that pop up and it's something that we could explore.
There's Haley, and I'll help out too, Sarah, when because I'm not going to be chair anymore after this meeting, so I can actually do some work. And Carl, did you want to help out as well with the recognition aspect of it as Sarah looks at a policy?
Sure.
Excellent.
Anybody else want to help with the recognition? Okay, we already know we had some volunteers to help with the thumbs up thing with the goose chase, and you guys are going to help out with the local recognition as we're moving into this Earth Week thing. Sorry, Chantel, go ahead.
You're on mute, Chantel.
Sorry, such a common problem.
We have to say it once a meeting.
I can help out with the like tree identification plaques or community tree, or not community, I guess, with COVID, but any tree planting, like I've done it with my job. So if you need volunteers or you need some help there, I'm putting my hand into the ring.
So for the tree planting, then I would say either let's, just to keep it manageable at the moment, it's not to say we can't eventually do both or more. Do you guys want to focus on a bit of a tree identification program, or do we want to do more of a community tree planting event where we can look at some grants and some different programming? We could kind of go either way with it. And then if there's 2 or 3 of you again that might want to support that, we can work with you on that, keeping in mind that we have 4 other members eventually that we can also throw into this mix as well. Any thoughts on that? The identification stream or more of a community planting stream? Any preferences?
Madam Chair, I think you should do both. I mean, how many trees are in this park? It's going to take you a day or 2 to identify the species. What are you going to do the rest of the time?
So Bruce, I think Bruce is going to be busy going around identifying trees. Do we have a lot? Who's going to be doing that? How in the winter they don't have a whole lot of leaves on them, Sarah? How do we do the tree identification, and how do us members who aren't really arborists do that?
So to that point, we would need individuals that do that work well. I might be looking at one person on the Zoom who definitely can contribute to that. He knows who I'm looking at. But certainly we would be looking for individuals for that particular project who have that expertise.
Well, Chair, through you, the gentleman with the expertise with tree identification just left his living room.
Oh, there you go. Okay, perfect.
Oh, yeah. So there's at least 2 tree experts in the room. And as Director Sweeney knows, I'm always happy to put my time and energy into where trees can benefit. But I also am very, very happy to educate people as to how to identify trees, and wintertime isn't a problem after you've been doing it for 30 years. So newbies, I only get confused when I look at leaves. I have to look at the bark and buds. So that's something that can be done where and I rely on Director Sweeney or staff to say, okay, we need the trees identified in this particular area. And that leads me to a question I'm going to throw out into the air, and that because at some time the town needs to answer this. There's been discussion, or not discussion, but a direction for planting of Carolinian species. Who comes up with the list of suitable native Carolinian trees to be planted in Grimsby. Because the term Carolinian is confusing for some, and it's a big basket. And at some time, a list is going to be needed, and that list has to be broken down. And Sarah, Dr. Sweeney, you know, I provided a beginning list to one of your staff as to suitable species for different types of areas. But that kind of list has to be adopted so that the Parks Department, they know what they're working with. Public Works, they need another list. And I'll just make one comment about Carolinian species. Carolinian sugar maples, hemlocks, white pines, red oaks, white oaks, which you may find growing in Muskoka, they're also growing here and are considered to be Carolinian species because they're growing in the Carolinian forest. Now there are species that are growing here that don't grow in Muskoka, and they're the sort of the traditional Carolinian species. So we need to come to an understanding of native trees that are suitable for growing in Grimsby. That's the definition I use, because if you come up with that list of native trees suitable for growing in Grimsby, you're talking about Carolinian trees. Because the term Carolinian can scare people, because now we're thinking, oh, we're just talking tulip trees or cucumber magnolia, the exotic, what some people think of as exotic. So I leave that question to the staff and to council. Who's coming up with the list of suitable Carolinian native trees to be planted in Grimsby if you're going to move ahead?
I'm going to answer that quickly, and then I'm going to move to Mayor Jordan.
Sure, just a quick comment to that. The NPCA does have a booklet that's super helpful that covers a lot of that specifically. We know the Niagara region also has developed a list as well. So that is definitely our starting point, knowing we're all kind of in that same area. I do think that we will look to work with the NPCA as well on this, because they really have some expertise in that. And that was very obvious at a meeting we were at with them the other day even. So we do have some good resources to pull from and to use, and hopefully we can develop that further.
Excellent. And I do apologize. You spoke to the same truth a month ago, Sarah, and I had forgotten about that. So you've got the resources, and I know that the NPCA is, as you do, is looking out for ways to assist municipalities as they come across some certain challenges. So the best of success.
And I'll just add to that too. The NPCA list also includes plants and shrubs and other wildflowers and various things as well. So we're actually exploring this beyond just trees and some what else we can get into as well. So I think there's some good opportunities and some really good resources for us to pull from.
Thank you. Thanks, Chair Faulkner.
Mayor Jordan?
Thank you, Chair. And furthering on, I just wanted to further on Bruce and Sarah's comments that I think that we're on the same page, Bruce. Not picking exclusive Carolinian forest species, but picking native species that also grow in the Carolinian forest. So because certain number of the so-called like exotic Carolinian species, they have to have the right habitat, and unfortunately in many residential areas and that the habitat has been removed because it's not in a true forest anymore. Something like a red bud. Red buds are normally on the eastern side of a wood lot, and they grow. They don't like the west wind, and they don't like the hot afternoon sun. So they are site specific. So that type of thing we want to work with, and I think Sarah realizes that, and staff realizes that we want to have a guide, but a guide with probably extra description that gives you a little bit more direction of where to plant things. And I really think the adding the fern species and plant species, and that is a really exciting way to go, because there's so many really interesting underutilized species that are in this region. And it really is something that starting with small plants and having a little Carolinian corner in your yard is something that would be really cool, I think. So thanks.
Thanks, Mayor Jordan. Councillor Sharp, your hand is still up. Is that an old hand or a new hand? Old hand, okay. I've got a motion. I just want to move, because I know we've probably captured a whole lot of the next item on the agenda already in our discussion, which is the Carolinian tree planting stuff. But I need to draw the motion forward for the resolve that the committee priorities for the next 6 months of 2021 be received. I need a mover and a seconder for that, please. Mayor Jordan, is that, are you moving it, or is your hand up? No, okay. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Sorry, mover. Haley, seconder to receive the priorities. Anybody? Sorry, Carl. All in favor of receiving the committee priorities? Sorry, Mayor Jordan, did you have a comment? No, everybody in favor, wave hands. Okay, that looks like carried. Okay, thank you. I'm going to move to the next item, which is the Carolinian tree planting updates, which I think we might have touched on a bit, right, Director?
We certainly have. I guess it's a sign of a good meeting when you get to the end of your agenda and you've covered it all. But we are moving forward with some Carolinian tree work. We will have a report going to committee of the whole, and then we'll be, and it's very sort of high level, and then coming back to the Grimsby Green to dig into the meat of this a bit more. And a number of these items we've touched upon. So doing some tree identification work, educating the community about some of the trees and the plantings that we recommend, and really trying to get beyond only trees and look at some of these wildflower gardens and some of these other gardens, as Mayor Jordan mentioned. We're actually exploring the idea of even installing one of those gardens in one of our parks as well. And again, it'd be something great to have this group participate on. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that's coming forward. We really have kind of captured a lot of it. And we'll be bringing some of those pieces back to dive into a little further with this group as well. One other thing that has come up that I'll just mention is a tree preservation bylaw. That is something that I think planning and our department is going to explore further. Probably not until later on, at least into this year, but we'll bring back information on that idea as well as we move along.
Budget. It says proposed budget.
Fair.
Sorry, Director Sweeney, just part of your update here, I just have my motion. It talks about a proposed budget. Is there any proposed budget with respect to this this item?
No, I think that's an error. Sorry.
Thank you.
The only comment I guess I'll just make with budget is a lot of the tree planting work we're doing, we're really looking to leverage some partnerships, some grant funds, and some different opportunities that may come forward. And so the one thing I'll just say to the group is, you know, some of this stuff as well is getting some projects and some pieces ready to go that are priorities for us before funding comes, because sometimes funding opportunities do come along. And the more that we have some ready-made projects and some priorities that we can clearly identify that we've set out, it really strengthens our chance towards getting some of these grant programs. So sometimes it's not wait for the money and then spend it. Sometimes it's plan some programming and then seek out some of the funds for that. So I think we can find a good balance for that as well.
So just another question on this, Carolyn, what's the next steps? What's the plan? What's the direction? What are we doing as a committee?
So what I will do is once we get our report and some of the pieces going through, we'll bring them back to this committee. Hopefully by then we also have a full committee as well. So some additional hands with us, and then pick a few of these priorities and start to push forward with them. Some of them will need a lot of help from you. Some of them will be providing advice from to staff as well. So, and it'll be ongoing. I think there'll be some ongoing pieces and keep building on the Carolinian forest. We touched on a few of them with the tree identification, community planting. I think that's a great place to start, and then keep building out from there.
Is there any questions to Director Sweeney on that that item, the Carolinian tree planting, which we've talked about, but what's your further update? Any further questions on it? Seeing no further questions, I need a mover and seconder on this resolve that the Carolinian tree planting action plan be received. Do I have a mover? Chantel, do I have a seconder? Bruce, all in favor? Carried. Director Sweeney, do we have any new business?
Not on my end.
Does anybody else want to, Councillor Sharp? And then I'll get.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Bothwell. I wanted to announce, I don't want to steal the sunshine away from our member, Bruce McKenzie. I think that he is speaking tomorrow on April 1st through the Rotary Club. I have it here on my computer. Bruce, maybe can you give us more information about that? How do you see it?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Sharp, for helping me increase the fan base. I've been invited to speak to the Rotary Club tonight, tomorrow night, 7 p.m. on the work of the Hamilton Naturalist Club at the Grimsby wetland, also known as the former Big R sewage lagoons. So I'm happy to have this opportunity tomorrow with the Rotary Club.
How do we watch it?
I can forward to the to who should I forward the link to? I guess I can forward it to the members because I've got your emails. I have the link for the meeting, so I'll forward that when this committee meeting is over. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bruce. And I had my other question is when will we be appointing the new committee members? There's talk about that they'll be here in April. When are we going to be voting and appointing them?
Who's the selection?
Yeah, I probably should say I'm going to do my very best for the next meeting because there is the process that has to go through, including council endorsement and support. So maybe that actually will slow me down. It closes next week, so I'm really hoping we can get our selection committee going and get that process going as quickly as we can. It does have to get approved through council as well. So I think we will try for next month, but I'll have to see if we're able to do that.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Did I see Chantel? No, it's just, okay. Anybody else? Bruce?
Yes, Chair Bothwell. The Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority is undertaking a new strategic plan, or working on a new strategic plan, I should say. And it is now at the stage for public input. And I was wondering if the committee would like me to circulate the link to the committee members so that they could have an opportunity to make input into the new strategic plan.
I would say that's a fine idea. I think I see a few nods, so I think it'd be great information to share.
All right, I'll get that out shortly to you, Director Sweeney, for you to distribute, or would you like me to distribute to the email list that I have?
Bruce, if you want to send it to me for now, just so that, depending on timing, if there's other additions, or I can make sure it just gets to everybody that's on that list as well.
Well, thank you very much.
Any other, Councillor Sharp, your hand's still up? No, okay. Anybody else have any other new business? Director Sweeney.
I do actually have one thing, Bruce actually triggered me. I just wanted to let you know that we are doing some work down at 40 Mile Creek as well, which is down the Elizabeth Street Pump House area. We are fortunate to be working with the NPCA. We met with some of their team looking at the bridge that's down there, which isn't necessarily the Grimsby Greens main concern, but looking at some work along that creek area and how we can restore some of the natural assets that are there and protect the area as well. So I think that's going to be a really exciting partnership potential for us. Really, again, exploring that Carolinian piece. And I know NPCA was very keen to look at that with us, and it could be a bit of a pilot program as to how municipalities are really working with NPCA. Bruce, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but I was super encouraged by the meeting yesterday, and I think there could be some really good potentials that come out of that could be exciting for, again, this group to get involved in as well.
Through you, Chair Bothwell, to Director Sweeney, I was only too happy to get your request to see if the NPCA could come out and assist. And I was very pleased with how fast the meeting took form. And I'm looking very forward to how this partnership can work, because it could set a standard or an example how this can happen in other municipalities with more frequency. So I take my hat off to you for that. The 40 Creek is a big challenge for the town with what you're going to grasp, but I think the rewards will be huge for you. So good luck.
Very exciting. Thank you.
Any other items of new business? Seeing no further items on the agenda, we have the next meeting date, which I believe Director Sweeney said is April 28th, correct?
That's correct.
So the next meeting will be April the 28th, and we'll look forward to perhaps considering the vice chair again at that meeting. Otherwise, have a great Easter weekend, everybody, and thank you for coming tonight. And thank you, Suzanne, for your attendance and the great information you provided. So again, thanks everyone for your input, and have a great weekend. Okay.
Good night.